Hello and welcome to a special episode of Rob, Ryan, Red here for you on YouTube. Myself and Nath with an impromptu record to react to Wrexham's EFL squad list for the forthcoming season. Of course, we're already a few games into the new campaign. Wrexham have now finalised their squad after the transfer window. Of course, there's no Luke Armstrong in the Wrexham side. There's no Billy Waters, Callum McFadzean or Bryce Hazana either. Nath, your snap reaction, I suppose, to that. I mean, we said on the earlier podcast, check it out, by the way, Rob Brown Red on all platforms. We both expected one of those, McFadzean and Hazana, not to make the final list. You expected a striker to miss out. I don't think you expected Billy Waters, were you?
No, I was not. I was not expecting Billy Waters. I mean, it was funny actually that we were both right. Basically, I thought Bryce would
Or
miss
both
the
wrong.
or both wrong. I thought Bryce would not make the cut. You said Callum McFadzean. They're less surprising for sure. Billy Waters, I'm not stunned because it hasn't worked out for him, but I'm surprised for sure because I just thought he would be the one that they were going to have to persist with and have to carry on with. But seeing him almost head in hands, inside the area, put one into the back of the tech end against the under-21s on Tuesday, it did feel like writing on the wall. And I know he got clapped off and people tried to give him a bit of a G up, but confidence is shot to pieces. And I feel for him because I don't think he's a bad player. He's obviously not a bad footballer. He's a good footballer. He's scored a lot of goals at a lot of levels, but stylistically, a really, really bad fit for Wrexham. And it's a puzzling one. We said on the podcast this week about, how Parky doesn't sign many duds. And I don't really want to use that word for Waters, but it's been a puzzling move, to say the least.
6 competitive appearances for Wrexham. I was there for the first one, Torquay away. He looked all right there, but it was a nothing game because we'd already won the league. MK Dons, he came on, he made a bit of an impact. Was it the following game? Was it maybe the Walsall game that he sent a header just wide of the post after coming on? He's quite lively, but like you said, Nath, personally, I think that he was the right player to get in as backup for the tail end of last season, just in case we needed some extra firepower. It should have been a loan with the option to buy, or perhaps just pay a hefty loan fee. Money's not really much of an issue for Wrexham, and I just think that the length of the deal, he's still contracted for another 2 years yet. It runs out in June 2025, Billy Waters' deal. He'll be a decent earner at the club, shall we say, as well. And yeah, it's going to be difficult to move on now. It hasn't worked out. Like you said, maybe Dud's a bit harsh. He's not really had a chance, but then in the opportunities he's not really taken them either. It does just feel like it was never going to quite work out. It's a ruthless call by Parky. There is a space free in the EFL squad that we've left. We've only registered 21 out of the 22 players we could have had. So that means there is a slot there. The squad, you have a different registration window in January as well. So that implies that Wrexham aren't keeping a slot free for January. They're keeping a slot free for now. So you would now expect, with Billy Waters gone, that Wrexham will go and try and sign a new striker. Of course, the transfer window is closed. It means it will be a free agent, if any. Connor Wickham, Lyle Taylor, Andre Gray. Any of those jump out to you immediately as someone you'd like to see signed?
I mean, all of the. I mean, Lyle Taylor, just for his frame, his physicality. I mean, again, Wickham would be more of that Ollie Palmer type striker. I wonder if
We need
38-year-old
another Mullen, don't we?
I was going to say, I wonder if 38-year-old Fraser Campbell still got his boots. I'm sure he's a free agent knocking about. No, all jokes aside, there's got to be somebody out there because to not register Billy Waters when you could have had one more suggests that something is cooking. Let him cook, as they say on the meme pages. But it's a surprising decision by Parky, but a good one because I think they've been looking for a striker. I was convinced that they were going to let a striker go, and I know you kind of pushed back on that a little bit on the podcast if you go and listen to that in full. But it just felt like they've been trying to change it up top, but it hasn't worked. I know we've scored a lot of goals, but some of them have come from the midfield. Lee's our top scorer so far this season. Jordan Davis, others like that chipping in, and he's just not been happy with that striker department without Mullin, and this is shown in a ruthless call, and now we know that Jake Bickerstaff will be involved. He will get plenty of rotational minutes. He will get his chance, and it's on him to establish himself because Ollie Palmer the wrong side of 30 now. The chance is there for Jake Bickerstaff, for Sam Dolby. They've been reprieved. Both of those could have found themselves shoe on the other foot, and and Waters has been reprieved. So opportunity knocks now. And for Billy Waters, like you say, he's not been released. I think we should clear up that he's been left off the squad list for Wrexham's run in the EFL between now and January. But he's still under contract. He's still a Wrexham player as we record this. But given how quickly things are changing, Rich, who knows? I mean, that might not last too much longer if he ends up back in the National League.
No, of course not. And yeah, it's got to be an interesting one. Of course, you'll be able to keep up to date with Wrexham's search for a new striker over on Rob Ryan Red on all the platforms and on our usual podcast, as Nave said. The other two players who haven't been registered then, Callum McFadzean and Bryce Hosanna. I think we mentioned, again, to plug our earlier podcast this week, Bryce Hosanna, a player who has had good moments. He's had some good cameos for Wrexham even this season. A horrendous injury record. Really feel sorry for him in that regard. And he's sort of just fallen down the pecking order naturally as well as Wrexham's recruitment's built over the last few years. Highly rated at Leeds. Marcelo Bielsa was a big fan of Bryce Hosanna, so he's certainly got raw talent and technical ability, just not really been able to push on with it. Of course, the injury situation has really scuppered his development, but at his age now as well, Nath, he probably needs to be out playing regular football, something that he's just not going to be assured of at Wrexham. And Kyle McFadzean, who, he came in, he did a job for Wrexham, but again, as our standards have gradually risen, he was good enough in the National League, maybe not good enough now for the EFL. He's fallen down the pecking order. You've got Jacob Mendy there. You've got James McLean, of course, who arrived in the summer. And then players like Anthony Ford, who can play an inverted role if required. Someone like Liam McAlinden, who has been included in the squad, can also feature there. So Wrexham have lots of options in fullback. Those decisions did make sense. I think we do agree on them. But yeah, again, maybe that striker one was a bit of a wild card. But like we said, the onus now for Wrexham will be to sign someone who is better than Billy Waters or certainly a better fit.
Yeah, it's got to be fit now. It's got to be. There's a funny thing in American sports. I often hear from people I try and learn from and educate myself around. They always say BPA, best player available. When they go and get new players, go and get the best player available, and don't worry about fit or I don't think that applies here for Wrexham. You're looking at a potential fourth choice, fifth choice. I mean, that was what Waters is. If you can go and get a new first choice or second choice, you're not going to get a first choice with Mullin, but you can go and get a new second choice. Great. But Palmer's looked brilliant so far this season. Bickerstaff, we want to see get plenty of minutes if he's sticking around. So we've got four good strikers. I still believe in Sam Dolby. I'm not getting rid of my Sam Dolby stock anytime soon. But let's just read out some of the comments then that you've sent us. Thank you so much to anyone who's following us on Twitter. And is it still Twitter? X, whatever we call it now. I still call it Twitter. Whatever you sent us on there. So
X
Rich
marks
put a
the
tweet.
spot where we should be following
X.
Rob Brown Red.
There you go. You put a tweet out saying Billy Waters has just been left out of Wrexham's squad 6 months after he signed. A ruthless call. He's not done too much, but hardly had a chance. What are your thoughts? You've had lots of replies, so thank you for them. Joe's put awful recruitment for a player who doesn't fit us at all, but is clearly a decent player. Silly contract. Jonas put a basket case signing. That's a little bit harsh. Akin to Sean Brisley. Thank God Mullin pulled us through it all. Hope he can get a good move on at least a loan, and then can get a good permanent move. Halifax, perhaps, where he's been there before. Chris has put a silly option to sign a player that doesn't fit into your style of play. I hope he gets a good run somewhere else. A lot of people saying the same, Rich. Neil's put just not suited to our style, especially the long balls over the top. Our style made him look bad, which I'd agree with. I think our style made him look a bit worse than he clearly is. Ben Hughes, but I struggle to understand why Wrexham bought a player and signed him under such a long contract when he was really only needed as cover for the last 8 or so games last season. Callum Carson's put the length of contract always felt unnecessarily long. Can't really argue much with the decision to leave him out. I'll do a couple more. John Joe put feel for the lad. Up front on his own with the ball to his feet, he'd have been decent. He's just not the right player for us at the present time, especially when Mullin is back and Matt's. But feel dead sorry for him because it's just not the right fit for club and player. Hope he gets a move. And genuinely do I wish all of them the best if they move on or if they just stick around. And Bryce, as we know, on the treatment table, recovering. So I wish him, firstly, just getting fit. McFadzean obviously played on Tuesday night. Just want to play football. No one wants to sit on the sidelines for 6 months. And I'm sure that Billy Waters and Callum McFadzean fit into that camp. And they'd both be solid operators. Callum McFadzean, for all his faults, is a solid left back defensively. I'm not sure he's the best going forward, but National League level, he'd be a good pickup. and Billy Waters in the right system will score a lot of goals. But maybe you need
He'll
a
inevitably
system.
score against Wrexham, won't he?
Right, right, right.
Wherever he
And
ends up, he'll score against Wrexham. I've already seen as well on socials. I've seen MK Dons fans, I've seen Barnet fans, I've seen Halifax fans, maybe even a few Barrow fans saying, "Yeah, we'll have him. He's not a bad player. It's just not been the right circumstance." And like we said, it's the Wrexham curse. Wherever he ends up, he'll be scoring at the race course, and he'll probably be shushing the tech end as well when he does it. So yeah, that is Wrexham's EFL squad for the remainder. Well, at least until January now. No Billy Waters, no Callum McFadzean, and no Bryce Hazana. You can follow us on Rob Ryan Red on all the platforms for your latest Wrexham news throughout the campaign and beyond that as well. Make sure you listen to the podcast if you don't already, and we'll see you again next time.